Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of an excessive amount of blank, where each song has an excessive amount of something layers, noise, length, vocalists, who knows? Every song will be unique. Although we have had an excessive amount of sound and volume this week. It's been a pretty consistent pattern. Today we're going to hopefully change things up. I don't know, I'm guessing based off of some album art here and an artist name. We're looking at Segall. We're going to check out the Warm Hands track from the Segall album. Let's dive in, see what's going on with Ty. Okay. A cool accelerando here at the beginning. Introduce the motif, speed it up. Ooh.
As I was waiting on the grassy field, my fingers walking all alone. To use my muscles felt impossible.
I do like that walk up on the right guitar. That's a nice idea.
He said he wanted to talk to me. Come
Yeah, I like that.
Let me take you home. My hands, they feel warm. My car can run. He can show you where he'll
Okay.
He can show you how to
It is a very large sound though.
It's complete. Now you're pretty. Ain't it neat?
This is interesting listening to all of the different atmospheres, the different chord progressions.
Don't be sweet.
We have different sections so far.
My little flower. Just complete. I'll pay you by the hour.
A shaker in the background. A drastic change in production alongside a different style of
I
music.
wasted life wondering why I was working for you. Now I see fear, have no fear. I know what I must do.
I love those snare fills.
I'm gonna give you some shame. 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 I grab your lists with my fists. I know what
Yeah, the drumming here is phenomenal.
Now I say clear, have no fear. I know what I must do. I'm gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you some. Shame. Shame.
All right.
Shame. Shame.
Okay. Not. I mean, we've been in so many different sections so far. Really, anything goes. This is an interesting section, I think, just for sheer contrast, but I have a tough time understanding what a calmish jam section is doing here narratively. It seems like we're building back into some of that punkier indie rock stuff, but I mean, that organ has no intention of moving, so who knows where this is going. Okay. So a moment to burst and explode before returning back down to this lighter stuff. I do like that sound on the guitar though. Nice chirpy muted sounds with a very high-end EQ. It's a brightness that kind of pierces through everything else. I wonder how long that was there. If that right pan, I mean, it's not a drone, but it's just one note and then a jump up and then back to that one note for a while. How long was that in the mix? I didn't notice it until there at the end, but it is the last thing to fade out. It means something, but I didn't even notice it was around until that moment, so I can't really decipher its purpose without knowing when it came in. If that's been there since the beginning, that could represent something really big, given that the song has transformed so much for it to have this one sound to persist through all of it. But even if it's just there in the final 2 minutes or so, for it to be the last thing to fade out still gives it import. And just based off this one listen, I don't know what's important about it. This definitely has an excessive amount of something, though, and that being transitions, styles, ideas. It is filled to the brim with all sorts of different things going on. There's indie rock, there's noise rock, there's punkier ideas, there's jazzier ideas. We even had a slightly metallic section in there. Felt a little bit like doom metal with a little bit of faster, well, maybe like a doom rock with just a metallic bite on the guitars, and a solo section too for the guitar. So it's all over the place. I'm still probably missing one or two ideas in there that kind of get swept up on the periphery of any of those genres I just listed. For instance, there are a couple of different noisy rock sections. Different in production, different in riffage, but kind of capturing the same essence. It's a song full of ideas, wanting to be so much and ending up being so many parts but not a whole. At least that's how I read it. I have no idea what any of this has to do with each other. There are, of course, callbacks, recurring themes across. Like I mentioned, we go to multiple noisy rock sections that are doing different things with different productions. They obviously have different intentions for these sections, even though I kind of wrap them up into a single umbrella. I put them into the same box. So we do return to at least the essence of ideas, but so much of this feels isolating. We have an indie rock part. We have a punkier idea. We have a more metallic concept. We have some jazzy light organ solo work. None of it really influences or affects any other style of music. The only time I really saw any bleed over was towards the end of the track. I guess it was about 6 or 7 minutes in. It was the first chill section. The organ's just noodling around in the corner, and once a bar This really gritty, gnarly guitar would come out with 2 hits. Wait a little bit and play that line again, almost as if building the song into a high action rock section again. It doesn't. Like I mentioned there, the organ doesn't really feel like it wants to budge. It is quite happy noodling away in the corner. The song seems pretty happy to stay here too. The drums and the bass just kind of doing their thing. We do eventually build into something else before coming back into this. I think we go into that high action section for 16 bars or something. It's short. And then we wrap the song up on this lower section as it fades out. But that is literally the only time I ever hear any sort of crossover, is that part right there of this implication that we're going to go somewhere. We kind of don't. The guitar doesn't return, and then we do build up out of this low energy into a higher one. But again, that doesn't stick around for very long. We have a very sharp transition back down, which is the mold of the song. Harsh transitions into wildly disparate parts. I don't know what any of it means. This is such a fractured song. It is so many parts that are... I guess there is a thread between them all. They're all rather catchy melodically. They have a lot of guitar, bass, drum, vocal focus. They are exploring a bunch of different styles of rock for the most part. So there is a central instrumentation group, at least. But beyond that, they're exploring so many different ideas here that I have a tough time seeing them as anything but a collection of isolated ideas, vignettes of concepts, a series of riffs of ideas that this person wrote and couldn't find any way to expand, so just smashed all of these incomplete ideas into a song. I have no idea if that's actually what happened, but it's what it feels like to me. I do generally like the writing, though. Even if I don't get the big picture, the individual moments are solid. Some of the noisier bits, not necessarily my cup of tea, but I still think that they are interestingly crafted and do a great job of capturing those vibes. I think it's very rare to find somebody who can do something so intimate and quiet and almost fragile in some ways just as well as they can do the loud and abrasive and large. It's fascinating to listen to somebody jump between all of these and everything in between with such a deft hand. Delicately crafting all of these ideas, knowing exactly what to do for each of them. It's impressive. It may not make sense to me, but the skill of the crafts, the skill of the craft, that's not a phrase. The skill that goes in to showcase all of these, it certainly shows me that this person has a vast understanding of music, not just one style, but a plethora of styles. Understands not just how to compose them, but maybe even how to produce them. I really like the skill on display here. Maybe not in the whole song, but as a showcasing of this person's ability to sort of be a chameleon. I even talked about, I think it was the second noisy section. The first thing I brought up was, dude, this production's different. It felt more raw, like mid-fi indie rock. The guitar kind of felt inverted rather than filling up a lot of space. It sounded like it was surrounding a lot of space. More of a concave than a convex sound, which I thought was kind of wild. And it kind of has a little bit of muddiness to it, a little bit of grit that we didn't hear in an earlier, noisier, punkier section. again, it's not just that the composition is solid. It's not that I can clearly hear where the inspirations are and where they deviated and put their own spin on these genres, but also that all of it's produced in such a way that perfectly captures exactly what the section is trying to do. It is muddy at times, it is clear at others, it is loud and abrasive, it is delicate and isolating. And once again, everything in between. It's not about hitting these extremities, it's about finding the places where they can meet in the middle or moving across the spectrum, finding different variations of these ideas. I'm very impressed by that. It makes me want to find a song from Ty that's a little more straightforward, a little more digestible on a first listen. This is a really good resume. Look at all of these things I can do. But it never quite forms into a whole idea for me. But I did really love where it started too. And I think this is actually my favorite part about this song is the more intimate moments. Granted, we start off with a little bit of an indie rock sound. It doesn't quite hit the same lows as the outro of the track, but it's still generally a lower sound. I like the vocal delivery. I like the guitar tone. I like the way that the guitars, both of them, sort of bounce around each other and also deal with the vocal melody too, finding room for all of this. It can sound a bit disparate at times. Sometimes the guitars just wander off on their own, doing their own thing, but they always come back. They work together again to create harmony or counterpoint. The same thing's true of harmony in general on this. The vocalist is typically in tune and using consonant harmony, but that's not something they use exclusively. There are quite a few times where the vocalist will intentionally lean into something highly dissonant in order to create tension and contrast in the music. Never enough to hit that nails on a chalkboard feeling that I get with dissonant sounds, but usually enough to give me that spice, to make the song interesting. I do think it's interesting that we begin the song on something as low energy as we do. We return back to this in a totally different form, moving away from rock into something jazzy, loungy, might be a bit more descriptive of it. Sparse, light drumming, light bass, organ off in the corner. A couple of ornamental things. Speaking of, I totally forgot there were some shakers in one of the rock sections. Just that doesn't show up too often in rock music. Love that. Just some sort of hollow shape with some beads inside of it. Yeah, that's just not an instrument you hear too much in rock. So that was cool to hear. But at the end here, very sparse, very isolating. Instruments played very quietly. I looked over at the volume on the side. We were at half volume at this point. Most of the song was peak, just full on, filling every bit of room that they had. And here we're at half volume. It makes sense. It feels small. It feels empty. The volume should match that. But we do start the song and end the song with kind of similar vibes. Everything in between gets crazy, gets heavy, gets ups, gets downs. It's all over the place, but we tend to start and end the song at lower points. Maybe the beginning's a little higher than the ending. But it's all very different than the peaks everywhere else in the song. I don't know what that represents. I feel some sort of roller coaster ride on here, always curious about what's around the corner, as if, I don't know, my periphery is gone. I have this super tunnel vision. I can really only see like a small part in front of me. I kind of get a gist for where I'm at on the track, but I have no idea of how this ride goes. Can't really see more than a second or two ahead of me. I'm getting whipped around more often than not, but I'm not totally blind on this ride. And makes it difficult to see the big picture. And that's how I feel wrapping this up. There's a lot of cool ideas in here, a lot of skill on display. I'd love to hear a focused version where Ty maybe takes one or two of these ideas and figures out how to mix them together in a cohesive way. And again, maybe that's the whole point of this. Maybe the disjointedness is the narrative. Maybe it's about fractured elements. Maybe it's about a bunch of separate ideas. Maybe the narrative is told over, 10 events or 10 different parts of a day or 10 different days, or I don't know why I keep saying 10. I don't know if there's 10 sections in here. But the idea is maybe the flurry and rapid fire changes of styles is narratively important. On a purely musical level, though, without that extra context, I'm just lost. So, let's see if there is any extra context for this. Let's dive into some lyrics. So, interestingly, this is a song about control and freedom. We start the song off with somebody who is quite broken, physically broken. Says, I use my fingers, they walk all alone. My muscles, it feels impossible to use them, and I need replacements for my bones. This person is also found waiting on a grassy field. I think that's interesting. It doesn't necessarily point towards homelessness, but how often do you meet someone on a grassy field? You say, hey, this is our meeting point. Especially when, as you'll see, the whole point of this is to take this person into the city and transform them into something else. So it could also just be about a division there too. Not necessarily, there is, I think, a financial class level division going on here as well. We have, a rich, well-off city person bringing in this person who is not as well off from the country into the city. That kind of thing, I think, is going on here. And it works on dual levels there. Two types of class division. It says that he'll show you where and he'll arrange it. He'll show you how to be famous. He says it's complete and now you're pretty. Ain't that neat? Let's take you to the city. Don't be sweet. Just be my little flower. Just complete. I'll pay you by the hour. And that line's interesting. I think it does lean towards the idea of sex work being paid by the hour, especially in this kind of idea. Taking someone who's not well off, dressing them up to look better, calling them pretty, calling them a flower, and then saying you'll pay by the hour. But I don't know if that's necessarily the direction it's going. It could be any sort of entertainment venue where you're certainly not making your worth kind of idea. Anyways, at this point, things begin to turn. I kind of take that there's been a jump here in time. It immediately says, I wasted life wondering why I was working for you. Now I see clear and have no fear. I know what I must do. It implies some time has passed from the transformation, from being picked up from the field, taken to the city, and being reimagined. So for whatever reason, though, they're tired of working for this other person. It says, I'm going to give you some shame. That's an interesting line. It's part of the chorus. It shows up later in the song as well. I'm going to give you some shame. Now, I don't know necessarily how, but the idea of making someone feel ashamed of abusing other humans for their own personal gain, I feel that. Especially if you're the one who's been abused. I can only imagine that as far as financials go, this other guy gets most of the cut of whatever's going on here, and our narrator, they get the scraps. Even though they're the talent, whatever that talent might be, the other person can't make money without our narrator. He says, so I grab your lists with my fists. I love the way that sounds, just syllabically. The idea of picking things up with fists, lists in particular, pieces of paper, I assume. There's probably a metaphorical element to that, but I also just like the sonic part of it, even though literally it's kind of a ridiculous phrase. But he says, I pick up your list and I know what I must do. I see clear and have no fear. I know what I must do. Same thing he said earlier, but kind of changing things up a little bit, just knowing that he has what he needs to do right now. It wraps up and says, oh, I feel everything. It's clear and I'm not scared. I breathe all of this air and it's here that I'm not scared. This idea that now that he has freedom, whatever he did to put shame into this other person brought him freedom again, and he can breathe the air fully, not being afraid of anything. It doesn't necessarily say what he might have been afraid of previously, but the idea of not having any fears at all is certainly, I mean, that's an amazing feeling. I think most people have some sort of fear at most days, even if it's a small fear. To live life fearless is something most people don't get to try, don't get to feel. I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for there? I don't know. He's got his freedom, though. That's what stands out. So, how do I relate this to the music? I don't know. The best I can say is that maybe what he was doing for this guy was not what he wanted to do. Maybe it was something he was good at, he had the skill for, he was the talent, but it wasn't the way he wanted to do it. And that could be a lot of the different styles of music in here. We start off rather simple, kind of calm. This is where the person is prior to all of it. He says that their muscles hurt, their bones need replaced, but he's free. He doesn't have anyone watching over him, telling him what to do, any of that. At the end of the song, he's also free. In a much calmer way, the lounge style rather than the rock style of calmness. Everything in between, though, is a cacophony of sounds. It could be all of the ways that he had to use his skills, his talents in ways that he did not enjoy. Maybe if you take it to a musical level, it's writing music that you kind of like for a record label, but it's not you. It's not authentic to what you want to write, but it is what would be popular, what is palatable, what would make money. So eventually, just kind of got to go independent if you want to make what you want, to have that freedom, to not be afraid to make the wrong thing. I really feel like that's a stretch. That's the best I got on this one, though. I'm interested in what other people think, though. These are my thoughts. Ty Segall's Warm Hands. What do you make of all this? Do you agree with anything I said? Disagree? Think I'm totally wrong about stuff? Put all that, as well as your own opinions, perspectives, and any other thoughts you have about this, down into the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.